Housing for all is something successive governments have touted for decades. However, according to the World Bank, Nigerians' housing deficit has risen to a staggering 22 million units. On this week's episode of Economic Insight, we'll focus on two real estate developers, Quantum Construction Limited and Survey Real Estate Limited, to highlight their contributions to the development of the housing sector.
Hello viewers, welcome to this episode of the program. It is Economic Insight and I'm your host Paul Kingsley. Now, in continuation with the ongoing report we are doing on housing deficits in Nigeria, today we are taking a topical look at the various issues affecting Nigerians when it comes to owning a home. Now, with us on the program is a company that are doing so well in the real estate sector. I'm talking of Quantum Contruct Limited, and joining us is the Managing Director CEO is Barrister Usman Zambuk. He's going to be giving us their contribution, the challenges affecting the sector. It promised to be an interesting conversation. Sit back, relax. I'll be back after this time out.
With its commitment to providing affordable and quality homes to Nigerians, Quantum Construct Limited is introducing creativity to the housing sector. Usman Zambuk Umar is the managing director.
Quantum Construct Limited was registered in 2017. It is owned by three persons, myself, Mr. Sadiq and Mr. Yusuf Amadou. And we've been doing business since then. We have about 6 projects now on ground. And as you can see in our office, we have a lean administration. We believe in contracting a lot of the businesses out so that we save the stress of putting too much pressure on the company. We made ours a little different by putting more people in the project, investors, clients, and then construction company. That way, it is not the typical real estate company where you have people, a lot of engineers, and then a lot of stress on the company.
Quantum Construct Limited is thriving to become one of the leading players in the housing sector in Nigeria, with the aim of delivering accessible and affordable homes to Nigerians.
My partners and I have been in real estate for about 10 years each, and in these 10 years we've worked for several companies. I have worked for a lot of companies as legal secretary, as HR and whatnot, and I've seen the issues that we've been facing with the companies I've worked with. The bulk of these issues is usually integrity in business. If you collect somebody's money, you tell him 12 months, can you deliver in 12 months? If you collect somebody's money, you tell him, I'll give you quality, will you give him quality? So for us, what drove us to start up our own business is we want to be able to tell people, we'll give you quality in X number of months and we'll do it. We cannot do business where you don't have integrity. You tell somebody you're going to give him something and you're unable to keep your promise. So for us at Quantum, it's all about trust. We promise you quality and we promise you delivery. So that is basically what inspired us. We want to be able to give these people quality and delivery as at the time we say we're going to give it, because that is really the problem you see in real estate. The bulk of the problem we have in real estate now is they've already collected my money and it's 3 years now, and they said 1 year they have not finished or whatnot. So for us, we have seen those problems, and it's why we set up Quantum Construct, to be able to address those issues directly.
The company is highly equipped with young dynamic management and technical team to execute any given task in its field of endeavors.
We started construction proper last year in April. We have 4 ongoing projects currently at various stages of completion. and we have another 2 projects that are about to commence this December. We try to do this specific time delivery thing, so we deliver all our projects within 15 to 18 months max, and we're delivering all 4 projects by June of next year. That is 15 months from when we started, and we hope to deliver the 2 new projects by December of next year, God's willing. Like I mentioned the first part of the interview, the essence of starting this business for us at Quantum is to promise delivery and promise quality. We smile and say our motto is real estate people you can trust. Now, we came with integrity to do this business. Like I said, we've worked for several companies, we've worked for several individual clients, and we've seen the problems that people have faced. So what we promise at Quantum is simple. We will build quality houses for you, and we will deliver on the time we say we will deliver. So if we tell you 15 months, we'll deliver in 15 months. If we tell you 20 months, we deliver in 20 months. What we promise is quality and timely delivery. Like we said, we are real estate people you can trust.
Challenges are often a breeding ground for innovation, and property developers like Umar are finding ingenious ways to tackle funding and other challenges. The government is also being challenged to become more flexible in its approach to lands and infrastructure allocation with an eye on the long-term benefits.
Okay, for us, I think the main challenge is with financing. Because of the history that people have gone through with real estate developers and trust issues, a lot of people are skeptical about paying off-plan. Off-plan basically means you pay installmentally as the project goes on. So a lot of people will come and say, I would rather I just see a completed house and I buy. That is for those who have their money at hand. Or people who are accessing mortgages. It becomes a problem for them because of the technicalities and the long duration of accessing mortgage. So for us, it's actually financing. We have the capacity to sell, but at times when you don't have finance to push projects, it becomes an issue for you. So I think the main issue is usually with financing. For Quantum Construct, whose core business is in the FCT, for example, the issues that we face are land issues, cost of land, and cost of construction. To build a typical 3-bedroom bungalow now, which you will not get approval for in Abuja because you have to go up, you have to do 1, 2, 3 suspended buildings, will cost you around, say, 7 million naira to build a modest house. By the time that you build a house at 7 million naira, then you include your cost of land, I'd say, for example, 5 million naira per unit. You see, it becomes an issue for low-income earners. And then low-income earners usually would go through the system. They'll go through the mortgage. Accessing mortgage is a problem. If you have met anybody who has tried to access mortgage, he will tell you, I've been on the queue for about a year. And that is if you are even lucky. So for those who are unlucky, you could be on the queue for 2 years. So as a developer who has a project that is about a hectare or 2 or less, you cannot be bound in a project where financing is a problem. So you can't tie your finances for 2 years waiting for the client to be able to access mortgage and pay. And that is why a lot of developers would rather buy their land, develop their project, and hope that people who have money in hand will just come and buy. The mortgage bank a few years ago came up with this idea of rent to own idea, and I like it. It's actually excellent, but this is how it's going to benefit everybody: the developer, the government, and the end users. If the federal government, through the mortgage bank, can give loans at a nice interest rate to developers who will develop to finish, and then have these subscribers buy from the developers and pay with their rent, I think it's very ideal. Now, once the developer has finances, he will deliver your house as at when due. The government needs to make, I think personally, the government needs to make housing more interesting priority. If we're saying as at 2016, the figure you gave was at around 2016, we are talking about 17 million naira. It's most likely about 20 or 20 something million naira, 20 something million now as the housing deficit. Now, with the attention that the government is giving real estate housing in Nigeria, I don't think we will be able to fill that gap with the encouragement that they're giving. If the government can give access to financing, change the model like the mortgage bank is proposing to do now, and they've started pilot projects in about 6 regions in the country from what I've learned. If they can push that project, that rent to own project, it saves people from the stress of dealing with bad developers. It saves the developer from the issues of accessing finance, because he gets money from the government, he's able to build the project and finish on time. And I think we'll be able to move up and fill this deficit. But unless that happens, a lot of developers will still do this 30 million naira, 25 million naira homes and hope that people are going to come and buy. Knowledge is, they say, is power. You can't do anything if you don't have information about what it is. And there's nothing like free time for me growing up. If I had free time, I would use it to read. Even if there's stuff that didn't interest me, I would read up. So find information. It's at your fingertips now. You have access to technology that people in the older times didn't have. Have access, pick up an interest, push that interest, find information on it, find information on it, find information on it. And when you do, you can always see it. You don't need to have a direct mentor as it used to be in the past, somebody to literally guide you. With a YouTube account now, you can learn anything you want to. So pick a mentor as you would. If it's Jeff Bezos, for example, how did Bezos make his money? If it's Mark Zuckerberg, for example, how did he make his money? If it's somebody in the real estate industry in Nigeria now, follow up his story. How did he come here? And you can see from that, it's very easy. These are the steps he took. These are the steps I'm going to take. And if you put it hard work, they say, some people say there is luck, but people who work hard are luckier. So if you work hard, you follow those simple examples, and there's nothing like free time. No, nothing like free time. Read up, find knowledge, find information. I think the sky is your limit. My name is Usman Zambuk Umar. I am a lawyer by profession. I was called to the bar in 2010. I did general practice for about 2 years, and but I picked an interest in real estate and corporate practice, and I've been in real estate for the past 8 to 9 years. I've worked for several companies, several law firms before we ended up registering Contruct. I'm currently the managing director, along with my partners, Mr. Sadiq Talba and Mr. Yusuf Hamadou. I'm married. I have 2 children, and I live in Abuja.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It is Economic Insights, and I'm your host, Paul Kingsley. Now, in continuation with the ongoing reports we are doing on housing deficits in Nigeria, today we are spotlighting a company that are doing so well in the real estate sector. I'm talking of Savvy Real Estate Limited, and with us is the Managing Director, CEO, is Mr. Ayo Lawal. We shall be dissecting the issues affecting players in the industry and also developers in the industry, how it has been affecting them, looking at this pervading view that we are having issues, developers are shying away from going into mass housing. We shall be taking a look at this, and also what are the causes, why Nigerians are finding it very difficult to own a home. It promises to be an interesting conversation. Just sit back, relax. I'll be back after this time out.
The rapid growth of the real estate sector often follows economic expansion and urbanization in developing countries. The growth often cuts across commercial and residential property. However, many observers note that the growth of the real estate sector in Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, lacks that of many other comparable countries. Ayo Lawal is the managing director, Savvy Real Estate Limited, a seasoned professional in real estate development.
My name is Ayo Lawal. I am the managing director of Savvy Real Estate Limited. So background into Savvy Real Estate, we were incorporated in January 2016 with the Corporate Affairs Commission. As the name suggests, we are a development company. We are also into real estate consultancy, management, and also construction, as the name goes. So that's what we are in a nutshell. Well, the inspiration pretty much comes from my background as a real estate training person. I have worked both in the private and public sector of the economy, and I've also worked overseas. And having worked overseas and seeing the kind of standards that houses have been constructed to, it was a bit disappointing to see the prevalent poor homes and designs that is, scattered all around the country. And I thought, well, having learned so much overseas, I could play a little part by constructing homes to the kind of standards that are generally accepted abroad. So that is more or less the inspiration behind Savvy Real Estate as a company. Also, we thought that we needed to bring some innovation into the space. We have a lot of homes which are built with typical brick and mortar, which is understandably why our homes are very expensive. We thought we could adopt some modern technology into the construction of homes in Nigeria, and that is part of what drives us as a business.
Over the years, Savvy Real Estate Limited has maintained consistency in providing solutions to the housing sector across the country with utmost emphasis on quality and trust.
Shortly after our incorporation, we commenced our first scheme. I think a year later we commenced our first scheme in Katampe, which we completed in December 2018. We also are undertaking at the moment a scheme in Gadwa, which is ongoing, and that is the project that we are currently promoting. Well, the challenges are immense. If you ask any developer this question, they'll probably tell you the main challenge is funding. And that is not far from the truth. Yeah, funding remains a big challenge in construction in Nigeria. But beyond funding, I would say, in my experience, one of the main challenge is the lack of skilled and non-skilled tradesmen, or we call them construction workers in Nigeria. That is one of the biggest challenge. What you do find currently is the majority of the good tradesmen in Nigeria are actually from overseas. You have the Togolese and the Ghanaians and the Cote d'Ivoireans. They've pretty much taken over the space, which is a shame, because with the prevalent unemployment in Nigeria, you would have thought that with the amount of construction going on in the country, that is an opportunity for our tradesmen to step up their game and become more useful in the construction space. However, what is Savvy Real Estate doing about this? What we are doing is the Nigerians that work within our company, we try to upskill them by providing training, and we also try to give them good incentives, which keeps them in the space, because what you find is when people do have other opportunities to take other jobs outside the construction industry, then off they go, and that's the talent loss. So we try to incentivize our workers as much as possible, and we also try to provide training to upskill them. Beyond the challenge of funding and tradesmen challenges, there's also the really big challenge of land acquisition. As you will be aware, land is very expensive, which forms a big part of the cost of construction, and not just the cost of the land itself, it's also the title issues. A lot of land have changed hands so many times, which then makes the title defective or makes it difficult to actually verify these titles. So I would say that the government needs to revisit the Land Use Act 1978 to ensure that it is now compliant with modern times, and to ensure that land is readily available to not just developers but also individuals who can, enter into the space and build homes for themselves.
A range of issues have stunted the growth of real estate markets in Nigeria. The Land Use Act is a legislation that vests ownership of lands across Nigeria in the hands of state governors, is a challenge that complicates the transfer of title and to a varying extent makes lands for development unavailable or very expensive. Other challenges include the current high interest rate environment that increases funding costs for developers and investors.
Firstly, I have to question the statistics, 17 million housing deficit. I wonder where this figure has come from, because we are in a country where we actually don't even know our population as a people. And that's where it starts. For you to do any strategic planning or for you to enact policies, firstly you need to know what your population census is. And the last I checked, I believe we only had a census in 2006. So that's pretty out of date. Census should be run every 10 years. So the number 17 million is hugely estimated, and as such we can't really plan with such figures. But irrespective of what the numbers are, the fact remains that there is a deficit, and the deficit is huge. So what can the government do to reduce this deficit? Firstly, like I mentioned earlier, the Land Use Act 1978 is totally out of date. That's a over 40 years act, which pretty much vests land in urban land in the governor and non-urban land in the local authority. You know that the powers around land, or the interest around land, goes beyond just the governor and the local government. So that needs to be addressed. It's a fundamental issue that needs to be addressed, that can then make housing readily available. But beyond the land, I would also say that Nigeria is the only country where people buy a high-ticketed item like housing at full price. We need to have a mortgage system, and not just a mortgage system that asks or demands double digits. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be a single-digit mortgage system. So that needs to be addressed. It's a fundamental issue why there is a huge deficit, because even when the houses are available, people cannot afford them. So that is in itself needs to be addressed by the government and also all stakeholders in the industry. Another issue which certainly affects development is the infrastructure. We are blessed with vast amounts of land in this country, but most of the land is not accessible. There are no infrastructure to actually undertake development in this land. So again, the government needs to address the infrastructural deficit in this nation, and that is how construction or development or even foreign partners can be encouraged to come in to support whatever government policies are in place to get construction going. And obviously, like I indicated earlier, the innovation in the space needs to be improved. This idea of brick and mortar as the only means to construct houses needs to be debunked. We need to look at other means. When I was growing up, I did see houses built in clay. We have a lot of clay in this nation. Why we've detracted from using clay for construction, I really don't know. That is a means, natural resources that we can harness for some of our development. And there are others. There are many other kind of materials that can make housing cheap. I mean, all of these measures put in place certainly will reduce drastically the huge deficit which we're currently experiencing in this country. If we all come together collectively, both the government and the developers and all the necessary stakeholders, then certainly we would find ourselves in a situation where the deficit is much reduced. Yeah, I think we are in an age, the internet age, social media age as well. There isn't really any reason why any youth who knows their onions should be unemployed or should be roaming the streets without a job, because the last I checked, most youth in this nation have got a mobile phone, and that in itself can get most people gainfully employed. So yeah, the government should provide the enabling environment being security, infrastructure, power, etc. But beyond that, the individuals, the youths, also have to, you know, use whatever God-given talent they have to create employment. It's certain that we are now in a world that the government cannot provide employment for everyone. So we should try within the resources we have. And like I mentioned, we all do have a mobile phone. There's so much that can be done using a mobile phone. There's so much opportunities which the youths can harness by using the very few equipment or gadgets that they take around and carry around. And I'm not even referring to nefarious activities like what is now commonplace, Yahoo, and maybe prostitution. I'm talking about things like e-commerce. There's so much trade that go on. We are now in a global community, so the youths should use simply the meager resources within their that are affordable to them to create employment for themselves. And if they do so, other opportunities would come their way. Well, I'm a very personal person, so I'm not sure how much you want to know. As you're already aware, I am a real estate professional, a chartered surveyor and a developer. That's on a professional level. On a personal level, I am Fumi's husband, Grace's dad. I can somewhat be described as an exercise junkie. I love to run, I love to cycle. I also love to read and travel. I think that's more than enough about myself.
Yeah, sure. We want to say very big thank you, sir. This is where time will permit us. Thank you so much for your wonderful contribution on the program. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much again for out of your busy schedule you were able to grant us this interview. We really appreciate it. Thank you and God bless you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, sir.